Hello and welcome to another wee walk with Steve. We're starting at the salmon sculpture in Ballycastle. The cliffs you see over there, that's Fairhead that I talked about in a post this morning, and this is Ballycastle Harbour. Everything here for a long time was based around salmon, the catching of and the preparing of. I'm going to walk down along the beach, I think, today. Although, oh, there's the steps. The Rathlin ferry is usually over there, and I believe that's the slow one that's in at the minute. Oh no, they're both in. And down the steps. Ooh, bumpity bump. Up past the very scenic and world famous Ballycastle utility bins. Therefore, the marina, which is round the corner, and supposedly the best fish and chips on the north coast, Morton's. It really only opens in the afternoon or early evening, and a little harbour. And many years ago, on this side down there, we would jump in. This is all relatively new marina development. The harbour was never really that big. Oop, bump. And one of the more interesting things you can do of an afternoon is go out on the Kindra cruises that go out all around the coast here. Last weekend I was at Coromila, which is about there, up on the cliff. A marvellous smell of fish and chips. Ballycastle is also the departure point for the Campbelltown ferry. Which leaves from down there. It's away at the minute. It's quite a nice boat. There used to be a nice shop up there that sold, I was going to say tourist tat, but it wasn't. It was sort of arts and crafts mixed in with some tourist tat. And Ballycastle is one of those places where I must admit I would quite like to come and live down here.
I think it's very shallow well.
I don't think it is. I think it's deep.
Yeah, it's quite a well appointed wee town. It's got lots of nice bars, a couple of good ice cream shops. A very nice seafront with a marina if you're into boats. It's also, you can see over there, a destination for bikers who do the north coast and end up in Ballycastle halfway. Stop for a Morelli's ice cream or a cream cake. We're walking down now past the council playground, and this is the green along the prom. And in a couple of weeks' time, this will be absolutely jam-packed full of one of the last big Irish fairs, the Lammas Fair in Ballycastle. And it's a place to come and look at people, watch the world go by. This statue is of the children of Lear. And it was a full evil stepmother thing. Rich king had a daughter and 3 sons, and his wife died, and he married again, and the woman he chose was basically an evil witch, and she changed the stepchildren into swans, and they spent 300 years on the Straits of Moyle. These are the Straits of Moyle between Ballycastle and Fairhead and Rathlin Island, which is over there behind the harbour wall. This is the River Margie, which runs from the mountains up in the north down to the sea here in Ballycastle. And just in case you forgot where you were, there's a big sign that says Ballycastle, so you don't confuse it with Portrush or Portstewart. And picking up on the swan theme, some more tessellation of birds. And if I get down this little path, walk along the shore of the Margie here. Ah, there's a nice one. Right. There we go, nice stone. And time for a stone throw. If anybody has a wish, a blessing, or whatever, make it now, because on the count of 3, this is going to be thrown in, and the ripples will take your wishes to wherever they're meant to be. 1, 2, 3. There they go. All the wishes and blessings you could ever want. Heading out into the world. Back up onto that. There'll be more than enough walking on sand in a minute. Ooh. There we go. A quite nice wee cafe over there where you can get decent coffee on a 15. And behind that is the bowling green and the tennis courts where Bushmills Whisky has its tennis competition every year. And on the other side of the river is the golf course where Bushmills has its golf competition. It's not too busy today, but I'm actually doing this walk in reverse. Well, not reverse, but normally we would walk down into Ballycastle from Cormida in daylight, have something to eat, go to a pub, and then walk back, but it was usually dark. So this way in daylight is different. Tennis courts. Hello. And that's the Margie running down to the sea. Across the footbridge That's the road bridge up there. It takes you out to Coromila, past Bonamarty Friary, and scene of many ghost hunts. This wee river is very good for smallish brown trout and an autumn run of sea trout. It's a little bit too small for salmon, although some do come up it. And the ever-present yellow of ragwort. It likes the sand hills. It likes the well-drained soil and a big gorse bush. And the thistles all gone to seed. Now, that is gorse. This is broom. From a distance, easily mistaked. Except if you fall on gorse, you'll regret it because it's spiky. So, bypass accidentally taking pictures of children in bathing suits by taking the inland route. And there's Fairhead in all its glory. So, interesting little flowers coming off in amongst the ferns. As you can see, the beach is quite busy today. Lots of people out enjoying the sunshine. It's a relatively safe beach for swimming on this. You can bring your kids here. There is lifeguards on duty to make sure everybody's safe. And in the far distance, if I zoom in a little, you can just see the mountains. No, there's a finger. That's Kintyre in Scotland. And down onto the beach and get down to the hard sand. Because Valerie will have my guts for darters if I take a lot of sand back into the car. Not that that would stop me, to be honest. Oh. When we were staying up at Coromila on a day like today, if we had a bunch of kids from some of the badder areas in Northern Ireland, we would bring them down to the beach, and it was actually quite sad in a lot of ways, because these were kids who had never been to a beach. They didn't know what a beach was for. They didn't know they could run around and scream and go feral. They just sat looking and waiting for somebody to tell them what to do.
Can I try it again? I want to try. No way. Try to go.
So we came down armed with buckets and spades, and to be honest, it didn't take long for them to understand that this was a place where we could have fun. And we didn't have to worry about things. We could just splash in the water, build sand castles, collect interesting rocks. I don't know why people do that. An awful lot of people I know collect rocks. not going to say anything for a bit. Just listening to the waves come up and down the shore. Always quite pleasant to listen to that. Very relaxing. That's one of the reasons I come to a beach. It's just that it's not very silent, but it's a silence filled with the sound of waves, a little breeze. It would happen whether I was here or not, and it will happen. Has happened for hundreds of thousands of years. Ooh, big wave. And it'll be 100,000 years more. It really doesn't need me to exist. It needs me to be enjoyed. Or at least enjoyed by me. We're coming up on one, well, really the only big rock on the beach, which, in the scheme of things, in Northern Ireland, we're not really good at naming things. It's called Black Rock, because A, it's a rock, and B, it's black. But it happens to look not unlike a pirate ship. Well, if you're 10 years old, that's it there. And you're down here, and you're allowed to go climbing and jumping off it into the sea. And there's a game was had off that rock. And the road, the coast road actually comes in, you can see the caravans there. There's a car park for this end of the beach, although it's quite hard to get to. And it's always full. Such is the pull of the Black Rock. There is another one further higher up the beach, which is always useful as a windbreak for a picnic. But the Cormelites who are watching this will remember this is the place where we would bring the canoes down and launch them out to sea and teach the kids how to canoe. It's also the place where during one family week, a small urchin, for want of a better word, was walking along the beach with my father, hand in hand, and a lady of circumferential giftedness walked past. And this little urchin, who must have been about 5 or 6, went, "Jesus, Donald, look at that. Beep, beep, beep," on that. And to give my father credit, he just nodded and went, "Yes, it's nice, isn't it?" So, that is the Pirate Rock. Big lump of causeway basalt. That'll not erode quick. And one of the things this end of the Causeway Coast is famous for is basalt extrusions. There's quite a lot of limestone on this coast, and the basalt either sits on top of, or the limestone sits on top of it. And we're coming up to one of these extrusions called Pan's Rocks. And that is the picnic rock, which, depending on which way the wind blew, you could sit behind and have your soggy tomato sandwiches out of the, what is fairly common here, bit of a blow. And there, 3 miles away, on the white cliffs of Rathlin. Rathlin has quite a substantial limestone deposit, which is absolutely full of flint and porcelainite. And there is a cave on the island. Well, there's a famous cave where Robert the Bruce was inspired by a spider. But there is another cave called the Axe Factory, and the Axe Factory created axes, some of which have been found as far away as the Czech Republic. So Little Rathlin got about even back in the Stone Age. If you've got smelly vision, the smell of ozone off the seaweed is remarkable. The channel between here and Scotland and here in Rathlin is one of the worst bits of water around Ireland. The Irish Sea, in the turn of the tide, tries to squeeze its way out between here and Scotland. There's an awful lot of Irish Sea and a very small distance between here and Scotland. So the tides are dramatic and the current's strong, which means that seaweed, which grows in abundance, needs a very, very firm root, if those are called holdfasts. And in the worst storms, the seaweed breaks free and we end up with a beach covered in seaweed. But it grows again very quickly, and is known, some of it anyway, as a good foodstuff called dulse. I don't mind it, it's quite nice. Salty, you can tell it's from the sea. And the Welsh use the same seaweed in a delicacy called lava bread. Now, we've had 2 storms pretty close together, and as a result, the little bridge that takes you across the Pan Rocks is actually closed. And they don't know quite where they're going to get the money to fix it, but fix it they must. Now, people think Pans, is that something to do with the Greek god? Or is it Pam, named after a lady? It's not, it is actually Pan, P-A-N, but it's named after salt pans. This end of the beach, used to be the place where salt was made by taking brine from the sea and leaving it in flat basins, in the rock, carved out of the rock, and left to dry. Now, quite a few of them have gone now, have been built over. But if we get up here to the Smuggler's Cave, we might be able to see some. Lots of dog roses in the gardens. It's very gravelly sand, this. Still as a mill pond today. Only the slightest of ripples. I'm going to go down here to get on something a little bit more stable. That's better. If you suddenly get a view of nothing but the sky, I have slipped on the seaweed. Big rock. And you'll see we've now moved from basalt to gritstone, which isn't particularly common around here, but there are places where we've got sandstone and gritstone. This is basalt and came from the same volcano as the Giant's Causeway. Ooh. The pans, such as they were here in this depression. You can see there's a very regular edge that was cut by people in the past. And I don't know where I can get up there. Hold on. Ooh, there we go. Ooh. And a bit hard to see, but along here as well, these flat rocks that run along were all used to dry salt. Used to be, before they built this extension, you could actually see the squareness of the ones over there, and people would come and cut these stones to make grinding wheels. Now there's going to be a bit of a bump as I get down. There we are. Now, this is known as the Smuggler's Cave, and it's quite full at the minute, but as you can see there are steps that go down, and it used to be used for small fishing skiffs to park up, and they could drop a board down at the end to seal it off in the event of a storm. But again, you can see the gritstone becomes basalt. You've got that sort of sandstone colour and black, and we're actually sitting on top of a big lump of basalt. And there is a reason I'm going up this way. There's a lovely view of Pan's Rocks with its connecting bridge and Ballycastle in the distance. Let's see, I'll just zoom in. If you look really closely, where's my finger? Whoops. See an enigmatic face looking at you. No one knows who that is. When it was made, it certainly got records going back many years, and they think it may have been a couple of the churches around here have Italian mosaics in them, and it could well have been one of them came down in the 1700s and carved a face into the rock. I have to say it looks a bit unhappy, but there you go. And quick panorama. The beach, Pan's Rocks, right to Canbean, and then we get the first sight of Rathlin. And you can actually see it if you zoom in. Over there is Scotland and Fairhead. And I'm going to go back up to the road now, and that's where I'm going to end it, because it's quite boring walking back on the road. But I'm going to go up the path between the postcards cottages, which Mum will remember, because every couple of years there would be a function called Summerfest. Oh, and yeah, you can see another intrusion running out there. We call them dikes here, where volcanic rock mixed with sedimentary. But I was saying, oh yeah, Mum, if we couldn't have beds in the centre, which was quite common, I've got a fly caught in the glasses there, it was quite common, we would take over nearby houses that offered bed and breakfast, or just bed. And one of the Coast Guard cottages up here was owned by somebody who was friendly to Coromita, and Mum stayed there. Now, isn't that pretty? I think that's a lily, but don't quote me. It would need to be quite a hardy lily, because we're only 25 foot from the sea. This path is not well trodden. Only locals really know about it because it only comes out at the road. And there are some mutant Irish amelanistic fuchsia. The ever-present toadswort. And here we are, back at the road. I was going to say main road, but it's not really a main road. This is the road that takes you along to a junction that takes you up to Coromila. And this is where I'm going to say bye, love.